are welcome to share your story and inspire others. I am Fiona Brennan, your host. I'm a personal success coach, founder of Inspire Action Success, and here in conjunction with Global M.A.P.S events, I share with you beautiful stories from heart-centered entrepreneurs around the globe. This show is for entertainment purpose only, and the views of our guests are not necessarily the views of Inspire Action Success or M.A.P.S Global events. Enjoy. Hey everybody, how are you? And today I am joined by the beautiful Pauline Victoria, all the way from Hawaii. Hey Pauline, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Fiona. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time. And it is, as we record it, it is 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning here with me, but it is 9 p.m. on Monday night. So you're still in Monday, and I know you're tired. It's the end of a very busy day for you. So I really appreciate taking the time. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent. So Pauline, you are an inspirational thought leader, and you are the founder of One Leg Up Productions. And I love that name. And I know there's some juiciness behind that name, and you're going to share that with us as you go along. And you motivate and equip impact-driven growth seekers to be successful in business and in life. And a lovely bio, but one of the lovely phrases that really is the can-do attitude. And you take a no excuse nonsense approach with all your clients, which is fantastic. And you've got a brilliant story to share. And we can see clearly from the story that, yeah, there's no flipping excuse. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. It's all about just getting the mindset and the approach right. And I'll allow you to give us all that juiciness that you share with the people that you motivate and inspire every day. So Pauline, take us back, bring us back to a part in your life that you want to start your story from.
Well, I think the best way to start my story is to start from the beginning. For you, those of you who are watching, you can see that I actually have no arms, but I was actually born without arms or legs. Kind of like I have a little bit of a leg, but not really a fully formed leg. And so taking you back all the way to the beginning is just a really powerful way to start, because the way my story started, to me, is one of the best illustrations of what's possible when you have faith in yourself and you have faith in something bigger than yourself. So I was the firstborn child to my parents. I was the honeymoon baby. They got married. My mother is an immigrant from the Philippines. My father is a farm-raised boy from Minnesota, and they met in the Air Force. They both served in the Air Force in California, and they met there. They dated for 6 months, got married, and immediately found themselves pregnant. In the Air Force, my mother was a nurse helping, in the hospitals on the travel in the Air Force base. And they were expecting excitement. When you have a baby, if you ever have had a baby and it's something that you wanted,
yes,
even if it's something you don't want, there is not just a human life that is born, but there is so much potential, the dreams, the hopes that you have for that life and what that life can bring into this world. So it's like the spark of light when a baby is born. Yes. And my parents had the same excitement. And I was, they knew, they were very excited. They knew I was breached. And so they had already decided that my mother would have cesarean. And all the tests were normal. The ultrasound showed everything was normal. And when she actually went into labor a month prior to her due date. They brought her in and they made her unconscious back in the 70s. Yes, I'm aging myself. Back in the 70s when she was giving birth to me, they made the women unconscious while cesarean. And so they proceeded with the procedure, and the doctors were in shock. They had no idea that there was no indication that I was going to be anything but normal. And so because she was unconscious, they told my father first. And he wanted to be the one to break the news to my mom. And finally, when she came to, he had to tell her that their firstborn daughter didn't have 10 fingers and 10 toes. And he proceeded to share my condition with her. And she responded with 4 words. And she said, "Thy will be done."
Wow.
And so her answer, she came with the faith. And she said to me, she had a little conversation with God, and she's like, "I don't understand why, but I'll do my best, but you're gonna have to fill in the rest here." And so even though the doctors came in and repeatedly encouraged them to give me up because they weren't prepared to handle someone with a disability, they didn't know what my mental capacity was at the time. They weren't prepared. They didn't have the resources. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And back in the 70s, it was very common for babies like this to be institutionalized. But my parents, fortunately, looked at the circumstances from truth, not from what they were. And the truth was, when they looked in my eyes, that I mattered. And they decided to take me home with all that faith and that hope and that love, and raise me to be who I am today. And it was a beautiful combination of nurture, like loving, compassionate nurture, and tough love, because my parents really gave me the space to figure out what I was capable of. They told me the story one time when I was probably maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years old, and I fussed, and I kind of gave that fuss, like my parents got, you know what your baby wants based on their fussing. And I wanted to sit up. And so my mom went to reach over to sit me up, and my dad held her back, and he said, "No, let's see what she can do." And I proceeded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Let's see what.
Yeah. That takes strength to
extreme. The urge of the mom is to go in there and fix you up and put you sitting up and do all that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. But they let me get angry. They let me cry. They let me kick my little leg. And eventually, though, I rolled over to a wall, and I used the wall to help prop myself up. And for the first time, I sat up by myself. And so they kind of took that whole attitude as I grew up. And what I love about telling that story is that they didn't see me for who I was. They saw me for who I could become.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
so
just
powerful.
really powerful.
They didn't see the restrictions. See what you didn't have. They saw what you could possibly make happen, create by yourself, everything else that could grow. Wow. I mean, you were blessed to have been born. When you said, the expectation of a new baby coming outside and that glimmer of light and what they could bring to the world. I mean, they really held on to that. They didn't lose that at any point. You were still that light. You were still that hope of bringing something amazing and having this wonderful journey.
Yeah. And it's trusting the process, trusting that whatever is at hand, or the plan, whatever the universe has prepared for you, it may not look like the way you think it should look. And it's just having faith that all is well anyway.
Love that. Oh my goodness. I think we could just end the conversation there. That is just so powerful. But keep going. Fabulous. Okay, so you're the baby and you're sitting up, and you're after going up against, well, I can just see it, but up against a wall. Little strong girl that you were. So obviously your strength grew then over the years as you started to grow.
Yeah, I think it's that combination was a perfect space for me. It was a safe space to allow me to figure out what I was capable of. And I took that on through the rest of my life, whether it be learning to swim, because there was no instruction manual. Like, here's how you eat without arms and legs. Here's how you swim without arms and legs. Here's how you, whatever it is, right, without arms and legs. So, I do have a podcast myself called the Small Victories Podcast, because I believe my life has been full of these small victories that reflect the greatness that already exists within you. So it's not necessarily about the big summits that we arrive to. It's about the little successes along the journey that reveal the greatness that already exists within, rather than something to attain. And so I feel like my whole life has been my message. It's not like, one transformative moment or one incident that happened and I had to pull myself out of the dark. I have had to pull myself out of the dark many times, and I continue to have to pull myself out of the dark, because as positive and as happy as I am, there are bad days, and that's natural. That's just human for us. I've just learned to be able to process and pull myself out quicker.
Amazing. And as you say, there was no manual, and in particular in the time that you were born, in the 70s and leading into the 80s, that just wasn't there. I suppose the help maybe wasn't there, and as you said, the instinct was, put a baby that's born like that with who needs help, they go into a home, because how are you as a parent going to manage, or there's no systems in place, we can't support you. So it was very much your parents. Was that the way it was for you?
I think they were my first examples. Like I said, they did create that space.
Yeah.
For me, I believe that we can attain higher heights if we're given the safe space. If we feel like, okay, if I fall, I know I'm going to be okay. Right. Or, to learn to swim, I probably swallowed gallons of chlorinated water at the neighborhood pool, but, I knew that no matter what, that I wasn't going to drown. It might be close, but I wasn't they wouldn't let me drown. So I was given space to explore. But so they really did provide the space, and they believed in me. Like I said, they didn't just take what they saw. They had a vision of who I could become and what I could be capable of if I was given that space. But then at some point I had to own the belief in myself. And for me, that point came when I was 15 years old. And, just the way my mom responded illustrates her faith in a higher power and a trust in something bigger than ourselves. And for me, I'm a cradle Catholic, but at some point you have to own it. You have to own that relationship. You have to say, I want that relationship with my higher spiritual creator too. And I know at 15 years old, teenage years are so hard for everybody. I don't think anybody comes out unscathed from the like PTSD around teenagehood. There should be a support group. I'm a recovering teenager. But so the teenage years were really tough on me, because all you want to do is blend in. You just want to belong.
You started to move away from the protective bubble of your parents, even though it was like a tough bubble. It was still protected.
Yeah.
Going out there, and as you say, you want to blend in. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you just want to be accepted. You just want to belong. You want to be one of the cool kids. And, just because I didn't have arms and legs didn't mean didn't have those same desires, but it was really harder for me to do. I don't blend in. It's so funny, as teenagers, all we want to do is blend in. And after the teenage years, all we want to do is stand out. So I'm living my best life now, but it was a hard time.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was 15 years old, and I was just so angry at God. And I remember sitting in church and having this like crying and so frustrated and angry. Why of all the people in the world did you let this happen to me? 7 billion people in the world, and me. And I got a message, like it was the first time I really felt God's voice for me. And he's like, why not you? It wasn't like, it's all going to be okay. It was like, why not you? And I felt this, this peace about it, and an understanding that the pain that I was going through in those moments, not those moments, but just like throughout those teenage years, were not in vain, and they weren't just for me. It was for me to be here now and to be able to impact people who also want to impact the world. So it's like this beautiful, like I get to impact those that also want to make a difference and ripple out. And so that was my come to Jesus moment for myself, where I started owning my own spiritual relationship with God and saying, and trusting the process, which my mom had to do 15 years before that. You know, she just had to trust the process. And even though we can't see the bigger picture, it's that knowing again that all is well. Like there's a purpose for it all. And it was funny, I just posted on my Instagram today that my struggle, I'm grateful for my struggle because it has revealed my strength. And it is only in those times when we are when we're struggling that we get to experience ourselves with strength.
Yes.
When we're just like go sailing through life, like it's all good. There's no need to, you know, be resilient or to experience what you're really made out of. And so I'm really grateful for those, even though they were horrible, hard teenage years. I'm grateful for them because it gave me different perspective, and it just allowed me to fortify that relationship with my creator.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it really is. I'm writing little notes. I'll have to go back and rewrite all the notes when I re-listen back to this, but it's just so true. It's like you can sail through life and not have anything, but you're not going to grow from that. You're not going to learn anything from that. And when we do really accept the fact that everything that we have that's sent to us as a challenge or a so-called struggle, is just so much juicy learning in it. And it's, you know, just looking at it in a different way to say, okay, great, here's something that's been sent to me. You know, it's like an obstacle course. You get past the first obstacle, you're like you're on a home run, but if you've just got a flat piece of ground to run on, there's no fun on that. You're not going to get fitter or stronger or whatever. So you need another, something bigger, you know, the extra mountain or the go deep into the sea or whatever it is that the obstacle course is, and you learn from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got through the teenage years, you got out the other side.
Ooh, yeah.
Eventually, says you, Japers. And can I just ask you, your parents, when you were born first, what age, were they in their 20s when they had you?
My mom was 26. So both my parents are 26.
It's so young, again, you know, to have that strength of clarity of mindset to, you know, to hold you and say, no, we're going to nourish you and bring you through this and help you through. It's just, as you were talking about, you're coming to the other, you know, side of teenagers and thinking, yeah, you're getting to the point nearly where your parents were and when they had you first. So you can kind of relate how young they were. Kids we're still very young in our 20s, even though we kind of feel like, oh, yeah, fully adult, not a teen anymore, but still very young.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, what is so amazing about that is they stepped into uncertainty. And a lot of us don't want to step into uncertainty. A lot of us won't take that step unless we're certain, like, okay, is there ground there? Am I not going to fail? Am I going to know how to do everything there is to do? And the reality of it is that when you step into the uncertainty, it's so scary. And I had to do that. I had to, when I learned to swim, when I learned to drive, when I moved out on my own for the first time to go to college at 18, like I had no idea. Like it wasn't about, like, even in college, if I just take college, it wasn't about, oh, is anyone going to like me? Am I going to meet friends? It's like, oh no, how am I going to go to the bathroom? How am I going to get my food? How am I going to take care of my basic living needs? And so that's a whole other level of, of uncertainty that I had to step into. And not that I had to, I wanted to, because I knew that if I had stayed home while I was going to college, all my needs were taken care of. It was like, yeah, I have nothing I would want, because they know my needs. I know how to ask, like, is a good system. But I knew that I had to go in order to grow. I had to step into the uncertainty. And I didn't have a plan on how I would do those basic
How
living
you were going to manage, as you say, the basics, feed yourself, go to the bathroom, wash, was that, because you were leaving that whole looked after scenario behind. So
Yeah.
how did you manage?
How did I manage?
Yeah.
God surrounds me with amazing people. So, I never pretend that I do this life alone. I'm not one of those people who are like, oh yeah, I got the mindset. It's all about me and I got this. I'm an island and I'm perfect and I can bounce back from anything. It's always been this beautiful relationship with people. And I feel like that's a whole other perspective I can talk about later, but like I truly believe in the good of humanity because I've witnessed it. I witnessed it over and over again. And so I met my roommate, and she was from Hawaii. I had come from California, and we were in college in California, and we were randomly placed together, quote unquote, randomly. We hit it off pretty well. It's like, oh, hi, hey, how are you doing? Got to know each other a little bit, like probably maybe like 15 minutes. And then it was like, so, are you cool with helping me in the bathroom if I needed to go bathroom? She's like, okay. And I was like, what? Nice to meet you. What's your favorite color? You want to help me go to the bathroom? It's just like, what? And I even questioned her. I said, have you dealt with disabled people before? She's like, no. And I'm like, wow. And what I came to realize, so we actually ended up being roommates all 4 years, and she helped me all 4 years. It was amazing. What I came to realize is that because she was so fully comfortable with who she was, stepping into my personal space wasn't a big deal because she didn't have any insecurities about herself. So there were no insecurities about me. So I believe that's a big key. When you know you can accept, you're fully whole and you accept yourself and you're secure in yourself, whatever comes into your space, whoever comes into your space, you're not going to be moved. You're going to be like, okay. And you're going to be able to navigate whatever needs to be navigated at the moment. And I, again, just so blessed with her. And they weren't in my roommates, but they were down the hall in the same dorm. They were also from Hawaii, and I'm half Filipino. So we have a lot of cultural similarities. And so, so we all ended up becoming friends. And freshman and sophomore year, you live in the dorms. We all asked to live in the same dorm together. My roommate, we were put together again. And junior year, you're supposed to move out, right, into apartments.
Out of the college.
Out of the dorms and into like the student apartments or whatever. And I went to them and I said, look, guys, I get if you can't find it, it's going to be really hard to find an accessible place. Don't let me hold you back. I'll just move back home, or I'll find another dorm. And a few weeks later, one of my friends, she's like, oh, we found an apartment. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm glad for you guys. She's like, no, it's accessible. You're living with us. And I'm like, what? So it's like, I got that, the feeling of that belonging, that feeling of being accepted, when I was fully prepared to like sit that out again. And they love me so much. They're like, nope, this is what's happening. And so to be blessed with people who are like, yeah, we see your limitations, but you're coming with us anyway, even if it's going to be a little bit more work.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, when you went into college first and you just thought, okay, well, I'm going, I'm getting out of here, out of home, and try and make this myself and try and learn and discover. Um, but you don't know how you're going to figure, you don't know how you're going to do all the basic things that, that you need, that, you have nurtured back at home. You just know that you just decided, look, I'm just doing it this way because I've got to, or else I'm going to have to stay cocooned forever.
Mm-hmm.
But you trusted that you'd figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, God and the universe responds with this beautiful flatmate, and then, all these other beautiful people who just, and that is how. But
Yeah.
that's the first piece, is to say, no, I'm going to try this. I'm going to trust that I'll figure it out. Something will come. And that's,
Yeah. I made the decision. And the moment you make a decision fully with your whole heart and mind, you're unstoppable.
Mhm.
And it is like, I know you hear this in manifestation talk all the time. It's like the universe conspires in your favor. And it's so true. It's like, I made a decision. I knew that I needed to go in order to grow. That's just as what was going to have to happen. But I trusted the process. I trusted that whatever, spiritual, entities are out there watching over me, they got my back. And so when we have that perspective, you really don't have anything to be afraid of when you're stepping into the unknown.
Yeah. Fabulous, fabulous. So tell me about, I suppose, after college, getting work, or did you go straight into creating your own business? How did you get to the One Leg Up Productions?
Yeah. So work was a whole other, so I went from like my cocoon to whatever that next stage is in academia, right? You're still not at the full, like in the real world, like the full butterfly, but maybe you're starting, right? I don't know, it's chrysalis. I can't remember. But because the academia world is also very protective. It's you are given the resources to be treated as an equal, but the real world isn't like that. No one told me that the world wasn't like that. I totally went into the world with Pollyanna eyes, thinking I have a college degree from a reputable college. I had 2 internships, so I'm going out of college with a whole resume. So I'm good. I'm set. And it did not matter. People could not get over. People saw what they saw. They saw the limitations. They didn't see what I could do or what I could become, and so that mindset, that not being able to see beyond the limitations, unfortunately prevented a lot of opportunities coming into fruition. So I navigated around that, and said eventually, I won't go into details, but eventually worked my way into corporate. And I'm from the Silicon Valley, and I worked in, data, Silicon Valley tech companies. And I did that for a few years. Loved the .com era. It was like the roaring 20s. It was a great time, but then it fell flat on its face too. And then I went into and worked for the city government, and fulfilling a grant position that had never been created before. So here I was again, hired for a position where there was no instruction manual. And I guess I thrive really good when there's no instruction manual, because then I figured it out. And so I did that job for a few years. Then I ended up I had already been married before I got the city job. But I ended up getting pregnant, and then my husband wanted to move to Hawaii. So I was in that job for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it was fabulous in terms of teaching me about my own ability to have leadership and create something out of nothing. Although I feel like I've been doing that my whole entire life. And so we moved to Hawaii after I had my son. And like all stay-at-home moms, no, I'm not saying all, but a lot of stay-at-home moms, because as much as I love being a mom, I still have this other part of me, the ambitious part of me that drives me forward. And so I decided to join a network marketing company. And so I joined a network marketing company, and I went to their annual Rah Russ, the celebration where they get you all motivated. They bring this huge motivational speaker. Well, the motivational speaker there was Les Brown. And it was the first time I've ever heard of Les Brown or been exposed to any like personal development. I had been doing a little more spiritual development before while I was in Hawaii, because being a stay-at-home mom, it's like, what do you do? And so I was doing diving in a little bit into Wayne Dyer, and love Wayne Dyer. And but at that event it was Les Brown. I was like, wow, okay. And how Oprah says, life will whisper to you, but if you don't listen, it'll scream. So that's the experience I had. So while I was working in corporate, and during my whole career as an employee, I had several opportunities to go into the speaking world. People are like, you should be a speaker. Oh, I got this event. Can you speak to my women's group? And I'm like, okay. Oh, another speaker took me under his wing. He's like, I got you a job at Dyer's Ice Cream to speak to their sales department. And I'm like, so I went to Ohio, and I'm like, okay. I'm like 23. I'm like, I don't know anything about sales. Like, who am I? And so I had all these opportunities that would rise up, and they're like, you need to be a speaker. And I was just like, oh, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to own my gift. And the scream came when I was in the lobby at that event, at that annual event. Yeah. And I was on the phone, and I see this gentleman in my purview, and I'm like, he's totally staring at me. And I'm like, pacing on the phone, trying to like make business happen, sell my little product. And I'm on the phone, and he's like, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, I'm on the phone. And he's like, but I need to talk to you now. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know who you are. I'm like, okay, hold on. And then so I get off the phone, and it was Les Brown. And he said, you have a very powerful.
Oh, it was he himself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he's like, I've been following you. And I'm like, I know. and he's like, I've been listening to you, and you have a powerful voice, and I want to invite you to my event in 4 days in LA. You can bring whoever you need to bring, just get there. And that started me off into this whole entrepreneurship and speaking. And I still shy away from speaking on stages. Like, I'm good at it, but it doesn't light me up. But having these kinds of conversations with people, doing masterminds, nurturing people, but also, again, tough love. It's so, again, bringing my parents back into it full circle, that coaching, holding people to a picture of who they could become, not just where they are, as entrepreneurs. That's what I love to do. Yeah. And so I started a company called One Leg Up Productions. And funny story there, I was doing some filming with my friend, and she had actually lost her leg at 13 years old due to cancer. Her parents opted to amputate her leg. And so my husband comes home, and he's like, what is this, One Leg Up Productions? And my eyes perked up. I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that one day. And sure enough, when I created my company, I'm like, it's going to be called One Leg Up Productions, because it's a part of who I am, but it also means that you're pioneering, you're leading the way, you're ahead of the game in whatever industry that you need to be. So helping people get a one leg up in their business and in life, that's what I want to help people do.
Yeah, as you say, it does mean that you're up that you've got one leg ahead of the other, so you are up that level, but it's also you as the coach, as the mentor, as the inspiration, you are actually helping them with that. You know, you're just helping, giving them that little leg up through the work you do. And then apart from all the other ways that it means. So it's brilliant. Love it.
Thank you.
When did you start that?
I started that in 2018.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So you have a son.
Yes.
How old is he?
He'll be 16 on Saturday. His birthday, April 16th.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're a blended family. My husband's older than me, and he had kids prior to the time we met. And so together we raised 5 kids, but I did give birth to my son, which is a whole other journey and conversation about now becoming the parent, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And managing all of that. And just, I mean, it's not that, like, would it be fair to say, okay, it's not that you've led a normal life with all your challenges, but you've led a normal life. You've done things, you've done everything.
Yeah.
Not anything that you haven't done.
And skydiving.
I was just going to say bar jumping out of a plane.
That's my choice. I will never do that. That's my choice.
Yeah. But basically, you know, you've done college. I mean, when you think back to the doctors on that morning that you were born, and what they must have said to your dad, and then in turn to your mom, and their advice was, you know, so limited. They could never have seen, like, you know, if they met you now, if they're still, I'm sure they're still around, like, look at the capacity of what's possible with resources that don't actually exist way back then. You know, it's just.
And in actuality, it wasn't about the resources. It wasn't about knowing the right organizations or how to, like, oh, do we get her prosthetics? Do we not get her prosthetics? Which wheelchair do we get her? It wasn't about that. It wasn't about, like, there were no therapists that came in and helped my parents figure it out. Yes. It was just following their internal guidance and doing the best they could. And again, trusting the process.
Trusting the process and just knowing that there was more.
Yeah.
Knowing
I actually had
that the capability was there. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had this, I have a Facebook group for emerging entrepreneurs called Made for More. And I believe we were all made for more because we see life with such a limited view, with a limited lens of, like, what could be. But I think if we were to expand that lens, or even take off the glasses that might be actually hindering our view of what's possible, then the possibilities are truly limitless. They're infinite. And I choose to live life from that perspective, because the alternative of living life from limitations is kind of boring and dark and sad and not really a place that I want to be. And so really, you know, it's this, you know, they say, oh, once I get this, once I get that, once I'm successful, once I get $1 million or whatever it is, once I find the right person for in love of my life, you know, then I can be happy. But it really is the opposite. Is, you know, I came into this world and I see this world with joy, and I see it full of positivity. I see the good in humanity. And because of that, then all these things are able to flow into my life versus having to have something before I can be whatever it is you want to be.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that, you know, you said, okay, you had been listening a little bit to Wayne Dyer, and you know, heard of Les Brown, and you were just starting to kind of go into that zone of stuff, but you were already in what, your 20s at that stage? More?
No, I had my son at 30, so I was in my early 30s.
So you're in your early 30s when you came across that. So it wasn't like that, oh, let's teach her all the mindset stuff when she's, you know, once she can, like, listen and read. So that will help her, you know, do all the stuff. And the same with your parents, as you said, there wasn't the people to go and support them and give them, the psychology support or whatever. But yet you were the example of all the stuff that the Wayne Dyers and the Les Browns talk about. You were the living example of it without having known that you were. Without realizing it, you were the living example of everything that they say.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you point that out, because I can read certain things and it's almost like, oh, there's a label for that. So I feel like, so yes, I would totally agree. It's like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still have a lot of growth to do and a lot of learning to do. I don't ever assume that I know everything, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And I still would like to grow. I don't want to be on the dying part yet. But, I feel like they're, reading certain things and you're like, oh, that's what that is. Or it's just allowing me to put labels to how I've been living my life. I feel like, and one of the things that I'm going to start talking to people about, because I think it's necessary, especially in this day and time, is about mental toughness. And mental toughness is an actual psychology term, and it's a set of attributes that help create your mental toughness. And I didn't know that actually existed. I was actually on ranting to my husband at the end of last year, and I'm like, it's like there's a lack of mental toughness in this world, because I kept hearing like people saying, I'm having anxiety, I have social anxiety, especially during this COVID thing. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why is this like a trending thing, or is it actually really happening? And what I'm suspecting, well, let me go back. Mental toughness actually is made up of 4 C's. It's confidence, challenge, commitment, control. Is that 4?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So confidence, challenge, commitment, and control. And so without going further into those things, like any muscle on your body, in order for you to strengthen it, you have to exercise it. My entire life, I've been exercising my mental strength muscle. And so when something like COVID comes along, I'm like, okay, next, like, what do we do? What do we do? It doesn't faze me. But for others, what I think is happening, I really do believe people are experiencing anxiety. But I think what's happening is that there's their muscle of mental toughness has atrophied, because part of exercising the mental toughness muscle is being able to step outside of your comfort zone, stepping outside into the uncertainty, feeling like, okay, if I have to learn something new, that's okay, I got this, finding out challenges and being able to overcome them. Like all of that is exercising that mental toughness. But COVID has forced everybody into their comfort bubble. And for 2.5 years, people haven't had to exercise that muscle. So when you don't exercise the muscle, it atrophies. And so I think that's what has happened during COVID. And that's why we're seeing a lot of, especially more mental health issues coming alive, especially coming out from the pandemic.
Yes.
And so it's just a matter of exercising it again.
Yes.
And maybe it starts out small, like smaller exercises, until you feel like you can get to the next level. But it's important, I think, and it's necessary to start talking about.
100%, 100%. And when COVID hit first, obviously the fear and anxiety around that was, I suppose, a lot of it related. I think is obviously the security that we felt we had, that guaranteed security of life, of jobs, of food, of toilet paper, was really taken away overnight.
Yeah, even the toilet paper didn't faze me. Even the toilet paper didn't faze me. I have a bidet. I got a bidet, people. So
You're covered.
Yes, instead of buying toilet paper, I went and bought washlets to connect to the toilet. Because unless COVID got rid of water, we were good.
you know, if it does, we figure it out. But it's very much, it was that whole, oh my God, everything that we know is gone. So we don't know what to do. And as you said something earlier about, you know, there was no instruction manual. You weren't sure if it was going to work or how were you going to actually figure things out. But just putting yourself into a situation so that you could figure it out, you know, even going back to when you were the baby, that I can just, you know, I said, I can see you crying frustration. It's so hard for the parents to not, especially the mom is the instinct to help, but you figured it out. You were totally outside your comfort zone, even at that small age. And that's how you learned. And most babies learn to walk by looking at the people around them. Oh, okay, you put one leg up and the other leg up and you put one foot in front of the other. So you were there like, well, where's my equivalent as a baby? So you had to figure out, you had no image to copy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, jeepers, your stretch muscle was on fire. It must be massive inside that lovely head.
Yes, if you could see my muscle, I'd win the bodybuilding
scan.
Right.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Oh my goodness, Pauline, I have so many more things to ask you, whatever, but I'm conscious that I don't want to keep half the episode too long. But wow, what a conversation. I think we'll have to have definitely at least one, if not more, follow-ups. Where we can go into some of the other stuff in more detail, and definitely into the mental training, confidence, challenge, commitment, and control. Fabulous, love that. So I suppose, look, there's been so many nuggets, there's so many things. I've scribbled some down, but what is one thing that you'd love to just maybe end the conversation for now on, somebody listening to this?
What's coming to mind, because it's always so hard for me to choose one, because I feel like there's so, like you said, there's so much wisdom that I feel I've gained from my life experiences. But I think the thread through it all is to trust that all is well and everything is working for your highest good, because you're here. Like the fact that we're here shows how much more we have to bring to this world. So I don't believe anybody's an accident. I think as my parents recognized in me, I recognize in others that we all matter, and that there's a gift that we were supposed to bring and contribute to this world in whatever capacity that is. You know, for some, it doesn't have to be like on stages or in, you know, in your own business. It could be in the little things, but that trusting that you were created for a purpose and that God's got your back. Like all is well, and you're going to be, you're already perfect.
Wow. Well, I do feel quite choked up, and I'm going to need to have a nice slow cup of tea. I feel like I've just had a coaching session here. I'm going to look up your podcast, which is, remind us what it's called again.
The Small Victories Podcast.
The Small Victories Podcast. Definitely one coming onto my list straight away today. Pauline, it's been an absolute joy, an honor, how I fell into sharing these stories with people through Elaine Sugar and M.A.P.S, to actually reach the point where I'm now talking to you. There are no coincidences. So thank you for the impact you've had on me this morning. It's been beautiful. And anyone who listens to this will absolutely glow and can make it happen no matter what it is. You're here for more. You're capable of far more than you can even imagine.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now you go off and get yourself to bed and rested, and I will start my Tuesday. It's all good so far. So I will talk to you again. Thank you. Thank you everybody for listening, and tune in for the next one, whenever that will be. All right. Thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And all the information to contact Pauline if you want to reach out, listen to our podcast, or just get in touch with you. We'll put all that in the show notes. So all the links to reach out to you, but it's onelegup.productions.com. If you look that up, you'll get information there. Is that correct?
Correct. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pauline, again, and take care, everybody. All right, we'll chat soon. Bye.